Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. I got a lot to talk about. This war on guns, as far as the Biden administration goes, as far as Kamala Harris goes, is very real. If you've noticed over the last few months, they haven't been talking a lot about guns. I think they're making a critical mistake bringing this back up. I think what they're assessing is that in their minds, the polls are very close. I've told you over and over again, I don't think the polls are as close as they think they are. But in their minds, they think the polls are close, that this is going to put them over the edge. Waging war on gun ownership in America will have the exact opposite effect, especially when you look at states like North Carolina that are so important. Democrats have a slight edge in North Carolina, but they start waging war on guns, North Carolina could get lost. Places like Michigan could get lost. These heartland states that the Democrats want to make inroads in, waging war on the Second Amendment is not going to do it. So in unison yesterday, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris each attacked the Second Amendment. And I believe it is 100% totally plotted and planned. They meant for them both to talk about this, so it was a 1-2 punch assault on America. It's not going to work. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about immigration. President Trump had a lot of thoughts on immigration as Kamala Harris goes to the border today. God, can you believe that is a mistake for her campaign? Going to the one place that she needs to stay away from because she botched it already. You can't take it back. We've got an update on the assassination attempts for President Trump. And we're going to talk, oh, this is rich. Nancy Pelosi selling stock just days before the company is totally sold off and dips to a total profit of about $500,000 or more. President Trump addressed that too. So we will talk about insider trading inside the halls of the United States Congress. But before we get to all of this, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at Energized Health. Let me tell you about my friends over at energizedhealth.com/Grant. They are fabulous. All right. So I'm so proud to have them as sponsors of Stinchfield, the podcast. I've lost 15 pounds on the Energized Health program. My muscle mass is up. My body fat is down. That includes visceral fat, that disgusting fat on the inside. I am holding steady now on weight as I continue to improve hydration. And this is all about intercellular hydration. This is what is so cool. So I want you to pay a visit to energizedhealth.com/Grant. If you want a total mind, body, soul approach that you don't have to really change your diet up very much, do a few things differently, but not wacky diets. This is about a way of life that works and works very fast. It's not about crazy workouts. There's a little bit of exercise involved, but it's not crazy or it won't kill you. Again, energizedhealth.com. The first program I've seen that worked as fast as it did, and I don't even feel like I've changed my life around that much except other than feeling better, and the clarity of my mind is great too. Energizedhealth.com/Grant. Pay them a visit and learn about intercellular hydration. All right, with that, let's get the show started, folks.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
So many of you know that I worked for the National Rifle Association. And at the National Rifle Association, first and foremost, the number one right they fight for is, of course, your right to keep and bear arms. It protects all of the other rights. But I will say this about the NRA. They were a big defender of all of our rights, and in particular, our First Amendment rights, which was completely under attack as well, because anytime the NRA or any of us that were working there opened our mouths, we came under attack. Not to get off track, and the NRA is not what it used to be. It could be. I really believe the NRA could be back and built back to what it once was. It's not. But the bottom line is this. I don't care how many gun groups are out there. We need them all. And we need them all because our rights to keep and bear arms are 100% completely under attack. Why do I say that? All you have to do is go to Joe Biden. Now, him and Kamala Harris appeared together. And isn't it interesting that one of the main topics they wanted to discuss all day yesterday was the prospect of guns? Do not believe them when they tell you they don't want to take away your firearms. See, there's a dirty little word when it comes to guns, when it comes to most of our rights, really. That dirty little word is but, B-U-T. I'm for the Second Amendment, but. You constantly hear leftists say that. I'm a gun owner, but we need universal background checks. I'm a gun owner, but we need red flag laws. I'm a gun owner, but we want an assault weapons ban. That's not for the Second Amendment. What that is telling you that they want to destroy the Second Amendment and they want other people to believe that they don't. So with that, let me go through some of these clips. Joe Biden on guns.
I taught constitutional law for years, constitutional law. Never was the Second Amendment meant to be absolute. Back when it was passed, you could not own a cannon. No, I'm not joking. People like the liberty of Americans is water with the blood of patriots. Like hell. I'm serious. Think about it. Think about it. It was never absolute. Never, 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 never. It's time we increase funding for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
So, folks, let me tell you this. That is not the quote. All right, the tree of liberty. I wish I could get the exact quote here. I'm trying to look it up real quick. I didn't know he was going to say that. But the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Okay, that is the actual quote that Joe Biden botched. So you hear me when I tell you? The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Not what Joe Biden said. Notice he gets angry there. Notice Joe Biden goes down the road of you couldn't own a cannon, and he gets so mad like an angry old man who didn't get his vanilla pudding that afternoon at the White House. Yes, you could. You could own a cannon. And the founding fathers absolutely meant for the Second Amendment to be absolute. What is he talking about? It's not meant to be absolute. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And this idea of a militia, the Supreme Court has already ruled on that. The militia is us. We are the militia. We are the people that have the right to keep and bear arms and gather together if we have to fight back against a tyrannical government. Everything the Second Amendment was created for was to fight back against tyranny. It wasn't to make sure you could hunt. It wasn't to make sure that you could defend your home. It was meant to defend your country from enemies, foreign and domestic. That's the bottom line when it comes to the Second Amendment. Yet Joe Biden gets it wrong. And he reiterates this idea that you can't own a cannon over and over again. And the same story of the tree of liberty and all over and over again. He has been proven wrong. Would you like to hear more from Joe Biden? I'm sure you don't, but I'm going to play it because it's important that you listen to how they think.
And I've been to all but 3 mass shootings in the United States of America.
Been to all the 3 mass shootings? Now, what's he talking about? So this is a fine line we walk here, because what's the real number of mass shootings in America? You have different types of mass shootings. You have public mass shootings where the killer is hell-bent on taking as much innocent civilian life as he possibly can. All mass shootings are horrific, but those are especially horrific because innocent civilians get caught up in it. You have mass shootings that's 3, 4, 5 or more people, depending on who's measuring, that could be a murder-suicide in a family is a mass shooting. You have mass shootings, which are most in America, when you think of mass shootings, are drive-by gang-related shootings or a shooting at a club where 2 people are fighting, it gets out of hand, and people get caught in the crossfire. All are bad. All are also conducted by people who illegally obtained their guns and no law would have stopped them from obtaining their guns. Or in the case of the public mass shooters, they either stole their guns from their parents or whoever it be, or they got their guns legally and did go through a background check, which means no new law would have stopped them from committing the crime. Here's what would have stopped them from committing the crime: a good guy with a firearm. It's the bottom line. So Joe Biden says he's been to all 3 mass shootings. Well, what are you talking about? Which mass shootings you're talking about? Now, this is the cognitive decline that Kamala Harris covered up. So make no mistake about this. When you listen to Joe Biden, this is a decline that she absolutely covered up. Do not make any mistake about this. You want an example of the cognitive decline that she covered up? J.D. Vance is a United States Senator from Ohio. Correct? We all know this. Listen to what he calls J.D.
I'm going to be very blunt. Secretary Vance of Ohio has called these shootings facts of life. Who the hell do these people think they are?
What did he just say? Who from Ohio? Secretary Vance? Secretary Vance from Ohio? And again, he gets angry again, right? Did you notice that? Here, I'll play it for you one more time.
I'm going to be very blunt. Secretary Vance of Ohio has called these shootings facts of life.
It's not the case. And that's been dispelled again. But what do? They say this to a crowd that will openly believe whatever they said. J.D. Vance basically said that it is sad that these things have become facts of life. We need to figure out ways how to stop them from happening. And it is true. I have said over and over again, the chance of a school shooting happening at your kid's school is slim to none, but the chance of a school shooting happening again is 100%. I say it over and over and over again. Because in some respects, evil is a fact of life. Now, Democrats don't want to hear that. But evil has existed since the beginning of time. It will always exist. You take away the firearm, they'll kill you with a truck. You take away the truck, they'll kill you with a bomb. You take away the bomb, they'll kill you with a knife. We see this in every country that's tried to take away guns. It doesn't mean the murders stop. We could take away pillows, but people will still be suffocated to death on occasion. So, again, evil exists. Once we realize that evil exists in the world, then you can start the process of figuring out how do you stop evil when it comes calling. Democrats don't want to acknowledge that evil exists, maybe because they'd have to look in the mirror. Maybe that's the reason they don't want to confirm that evil exists in the world, because they are evil. They are evil when they want to take away your rights to defend yourself. They are evil when they want to take your money and give it to somebody else. They are evil when they want to infringe upon your right to health care, your right to decide what goes in your body, and then ends up harming you with their decisions of what you should put in your body. That's evil. Evil exists in the world. How are we going to deal with it? That's a conservative's view. That's how conservatives think. So Kamala Harris also talked about guns. Listen.
Either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I am in favor of the Second Amendment, and I believe we need to reinstate the assault weapons ban.
So how are you in favor of the Second Amendment when the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed? When the Supreme Court has ruled the most popular firearm in America, the AR-15 and styles of rifles like it, are the most popular in America, and you can't outlaw the most popular guns that are in, quote, common use. How are you then for the Second Amendment? I'm going to ask every liberal, including I have family members that are liberals. Are you scared to come to my house when I have an AR-15 locked up in my gun safe? Are you afraid that during the middle of dinner I'm going to go into my office and I'm going to get that AR-15, I'm going to unlock the safe, and then I'm going to walk away because they know I'm not going to hurt them. But that AR-15 is going to creep out of that gun safe on its own. It's going to claw and scratch in there just so I know I open up the safe for it to get out and shoot everybody. My point is, it's not the guns. You all know it's not the guns. So Kamala Harris says she has a gun. She owns a gun. I'm going to play you Karine Jean-Pierre's reaction to the question, hey, what gun does Kamala Harris own? Tell us, please. In a second, I'm going to do that. Before I do that, I want to tell you about my friends over at NFN8. Get21now.com. The website's great because it's talking about 21% interest annualized on your investment. 21% annualized interest paid out monthly. This is mailbox money. This is about a Bitcoin investment, but not an actual Bitcoin. It's an investment in the mining facility. This is what you're investing in. Institutionalized mining facilities, warehouses, perfected like you wouldn't believe. I've seen some of these. I have invested with NFN8. I get a monthly check. In fact, I just got my direct deposit yesterday. 21% annualized. I don't have headaches of payroll. I don't have rent to pay. I don't have bills to pay. I literally give them my money. They mine the Bitcoin. They sell it the next day. And I have figured out that the secret to Bitcoin right now is in the mining. Mine it, sell it, give me my money. But your payout is not determined on the price of the Bitcoin. You get a deal, a certain interest rate up to 21% locked in. That's where I've locked in at. You can too, 21%. I want you to figure out how this works by talking to them. Get21now.com. Go fill out the form. They'll get back with you. I really do. I like these guys a lot. They are very, very good people. Get21now.com. Get21now.com. It's all about the mailbox money, baby. It really, really is. All right. Kamala Harris says she owns a gun. Says, I own a gun. You may be surprised to learn I own a firearm. Yes, I'm surprised to learn that. Where is it? What kind of gun is it? Please tell me. When was the last time you shot it? She won't answer any of these questions. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about it.
Did she fire?
That's something for her office to speak to.
The reason I'm asking is because you have this event today, but the VP, as district attorney, sponsored Proposition H in 2005. It would have banned handguns within San Francisco city limits and required that residents turn in the handguns that they already own by a certain deadline or face mandatory jail time. But she's out on the campaign trail now saying that she's a proud gun owner and is not going to take away your guns. So can the White House get us an answer on that? Because she hasn't, and her campaign officials also haven't answered that question, even on television.
Look, a couple of things here. When it comes to the VP and owning a gun, she can speak for herself. The campaign could speak for that. Her office can speak for that. I'm not. That's for them to speak to.
Wait a second. You are the spokesperson for the White House. Kamala Harris is the vice president. Now, I understand she has her own press people, but you speak for the White House. So the question is, she says she owns a firearm. Now there's this wacky provision in San Francisco. Maybe that's the news story. I didn't even listen to the whole soundbite. Listen to this again. I want to hear this provision. They confiscating guns in San Francisco?
Did she fire?
That's something for her office to speak to.
The reason I'm asking is because you have this event today, but the VP, as district attorney, sponsored Proposition H in 2005. It would have banned handguns within San Francisco city limits and required that residents turn in the handguns that they already own by a certain deadline or face mandatory jail time.
All right, I see. So she helped pass this proposition way back when that you had to turn in your guns. So did she not turn them in? Did Kamala Harris not turn in her firearms? On the own law that she passed, when did she buy this gun that she has? She's from San Francisco. The bottom line is, if she bought it in California, did she transfer it to Washington, D.C.? Because that's like a huge no-no. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled you can have a gun in your residence. And I would offer up, she's living in the vice president's residence. She can have a gun there. How did she get it there? I'd like to know that. Did she check it on the plane? Check her baggage? Did she turn it in? Did it get flown on Air Force One? Like all these questions that you know she won't answer. And the reason she won't answer them is because my guess is Kamala Harris does not have a firearm. Kamala Harris has never fired a firearm. She may have had a cursory visit to the range as a prosecutor to go stand there with police as they train and maybe take a shot here or there. But she has not spent any significant time on a range. And if you own a firearm, folks, that, my friends, is very wrong. I want everyone who owns a firearm to be trained. But here's the last thing that I want. I certainly don't want you to be forced to train. That's the last thing I want from you, is to be forced to train. All right. I told you I'd tell you a little bit about this Nancy Pelosi stuff. Let me let President Trump spell it out, and then we'll talk about Nancy Pelosi and the insider trading. You know, there are stock groups that trade Nancy Pelosi stock trades, and it's like 50% profit, something like this, something outrageous. Let me play it for you.
The 25th Amendment. They threatened him with the 25th Amendment. They said, Joe, you're going to get out. And Nancy Pelosi led the charge. And Nancy Pelosi has a little problem because her husband sold their Visa stock. They had a lot of Visa stock one day before Visa was announced that Visa is being sued by the Department of Justice. Think of that. Nancy Pelosi sold vast amounts of Visa stock one day before the big lawsuit that we all read about a few days ago was brought against Visa. You think it was luck? I don't.
Come on, Mr. President. It's not luck. She's psychic. She's a visionary. She sees these things before. Come on. Nobody believes that. Thank you, Mr. President, for calling this out. I thought they passed laws about trading on insider information. Oh, wait, they did. But those laws have no teeth. They're virtual slap on the wrist. You make more money breaking the law, so they go ahead and do it. They're not going to go to jail trading on insider information. Nobody inside Congress is going to go after them because they're all doing it, Republican and Democrat. Or I should say Democrat and Republican. However you want to say it. The elite in Washington is making money off their positions of power, and Nancy Pelosi is leading the charge on that. No one is better at this than Nancy Pelosi. This is why so many people follow her stock trades and make a lot of money doing it. There are literally bots that will follow Nancy Pelosi's stock filings and trade it out. Now, it's behind a few weeks, but even behind a few weeks, they're up 30, 40%. These bots that trade on Nancy Pelosi's information. To me, it's despicable. It's everything that's wrong with Washington. It's literally abusing the trust and power that we, as voters, gave you.
I don't think she should be prosecuted. Nancy Pelosi should be prosecuted for that. And she should also be prosecuted for J6 because she turned down 10,000 or any number she wanted, soldiers or National Guard. And I hope you all read John Solomon and what John Solomon wrote 2 days ago, because if you read it, you'd see that Donald Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. It's a scam. It's a scam.
Well, John Solomon is a very good friend of mine over at Just the News. Does a show on Real America's Voice right before my show on Real America's Voice. But with all due respect to John Solomon, I didn't need to read any article to come to the conclusion that President Trump did anything wrong. We will peacefully and patriotically go up to the Capitol to let our voices be heard. The reality is they are doing everything they can do to stop this man because he is a threat to them. The Nancy Pelosi stock trade is a great example of what President Trump is a threat to. President Trump does not want elected lawmakers profiting off insider information about when the DOJ is going to go investigate a company so you can short sell it and make all kinds of money. That will upend their way of life. Why does nearly every member of Congress, even from the lowly AOC, go in as everyday folks, middle class? Some may be somewhat wealthy. Some may be very wealthy. When they come out, they're all wildly wealthy. How? On $180-something thousand salary? How are you wildly wealthy when you come out of Congress? What is going on there? What is the inside game? I personally would love to know. Again, I think the joke is on us, and I think there are many times where they're at the members' bar in the basement of the Capitol, where only members of Congress are allowed, and they're toasting their scotches. Schumer and Speaker Johnson and Nancy Pelosi and whoever else. They're all toasting. Here's to making more money off the backs of the American people. Screw them, really. That's how I feel. I really, really do. Folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile, and I'm going to go through President Trump's little speech on immigration, which was really, really, again, it's stuff we know, but it's important to hear. PatriotMobile.com is where I want you to go. PatriotMobile.com /Grant. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. 100% U.S.-based customer service. They do not engage in diversity, equity, and inclusion. They give money to causes we believe in. I talked about the NRA and other gun rights organizations. They do not donate to Planned Parenthood like the other big three cell phone companies do. And it says a lot about where you want the country to go by where you spend your money, who you spend your money with. This is about a parallel economy, but it's also about great service. They have a performance guarantee over at Patriot Mobile like none other. No other company can give you the performance guarantee they have because you can choose what network you want to be on, and they have access to all of them. So I want you to make the switch today. Stop funding the woke agenda. Stop funding the woke left and go with Patriot Mobile. I have a great deal there. I'm so happy with them. PatriotMobile.com/Grant, 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT. You tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. Use the promo code GRANT, by the way, for a free activation or free first month service. I think you can choose which one you want. But to call them up, they got a great deal for you. Just use that promo code GRANT, and you're not going to regret it. I keep telling you this every day. Just make the switch. Finally do it. And I know you say, oh, I got to do that. At some point, I got to do that. Make today the day you do it. PatriotMobile.com/Grant, 972-PATRIOT. Tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you.
But they went in.
Excuse me. Let's go now to immigration. Kamala Harris is set to go down to the border today. This is really quite hilarious. If you're her campaign, so we talked about her going after guns, her and Biden. I think that's a mistake. Sometimes I wonder if the Biden folks are setting her up so she loses, so Gavin Newsom then can be the guy 4 years from now. Let's face it, that's the guy they really want. Gavin Newsom is showing all kinds of signs. This is the governor of California, that he is preparing a run for the presidency, vetoing bills on reparations when he was all about reparations. Signed a bill in California that says, listen to this, folks, by the way, this is rich. If you solicit sex from a minor, it is now a felony in California. Well, it's a good news bill, but how in the hell was it not a felony before today? How was soliciting sex from someone under 16 years old, if you're an adult, not a felony? Well, it is now in California. Governor Newsom signed that bill. Why? Because I think he's pandering to the middle now. Maybe this will be good news for some Californians, that they'll benefit from some of this, but it's clear to me he wants to win. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden talking about guns doesn't make any sense. That's going to drive people away from the Democrat Party if you start going hardcore gun confiscation, gun laws, all of this stuff. What else? She goes to the border. She's the border czar. Ignore the border. Now, I mean, this is if I'm her campaign person. I'm telling her, you know what? Stay away as far away from that issue as you can right now. Ignore it, but don't go down there, because all you're going to do is highlight the problem. And if we're smart, we'll have a whole group of hecklers there to root her out, smoke her out on this issue. This is President Trump talking about what they did when they took office to his border policies.
Terminated every single Trump policy that sealed and secured the border. She ordered an immediate stop to the completion of the border wall. It was almost complete. We built hundreds and hundreds of miles of wall, and it worked. I always said walls and wheels. Everything else is obsolete, but walls and wheels, and this wall worked. And we were ready to build and throw up another 200. Could have been done within weeks. Everything was complete. The wall was all built, ready to go, laying there, ready to be fixed. All they had to do is throw it up, and you would have had an extra 200 miles of wall, far more than I promised in the election. She suspended all deportations. She instituted catch and release across the entire southern border. And we had catch and release also, but we released in Mexico. Her catch and release was to release in the United States and never see them again. She sent Congress a bill demanding amnesty for all illegal aliens, every single illegal alien, even if they're criminals, even if they're murderers, even if they're drug dealers, human traffickers. She wanted amnesty for everybody. Radical left. This is a radical left person. She terminated Remain in Mexico, something that took me and a lot of talent, a lot of other people, but it took a lot of talent to get from the president of Mexico, a good man. But we got it. You had to remain in Mexico. You couldn't come in under any circumstance. You weren't allowed into the United States until we checked it out, and many people did not come in and were not allowed to come in because...
No, they weren't. Remain in Mexico was the number one policy of all of them. Maybe the wall was first. You build a wall, it slows down. Nothing is 100%, but it slows down the flood, right? You start building it, it also tells the rest of the world, don't come, we mean business. We're building a wall to keep you out. Once you start taking down the wall, stop construction, you're telling the world, it's okay, come, we'll figure out a way to get you in, which is exactly what the Biden administration did. Then they remove remain in Mexico, which was maybe the most common sense. Hey, if you come, you got to stay while your asylum's claimed. You're not coming into the United States, so we just lose track of you. I mean, to lose track of these people and children. Tens of thousands of children just poof, vanished. All because of Kamala Harris and this nightmare of a border czar policy. Let's continue with President Trump here.
They didn't check out. They were drug dealers. They were gang members. They were in jail for murder in a couple of cases. We wouldn't let them in. And she canceled every Safe Third agreement. Anybody here, I think, would know what that is, but that was a horrible thing that she did. And she canceled Remain in Mexico. Here we have something, Remain in Mexico. You don't have to explain it. She canceled. She ordered ICE to halt the removal of virtually all criminal aliens, including MS-13 gang members, the worst gang anywhere in the world, they say. Evil, evil gang. She ended all of our programs that we instituted to stop child and woman trafficking.
Do you know what's amazing? This clip from President Trump is a total of about 5 minutes long. So think about that. He's not even commenting a lot on all of this stuff. He's running down the list of all the things that Kamala Harris has done to destroy the border. 5 minutes long, and it goes on and on and on. Every single policy he put in place to secure our southern border, secure the safety and security of American and Americans. Consider that, too. And I know you know this. I don't need to tell you the havoc it has wreaked on our healthcare system, on our personal safety. You know, I'm in Dallas. There was a story of a woman that was attacked in her garage. She drives home, followed in by 4 what they believe are Venezuelans, spoke no English, brought her into her house, tied her up, gagged her with stockings or pantyhose. Thankfully, they did not sexually assault her. But they went through the whole house, tied her up, tortured her, apparently, just not sexually from what we're being told, and then left on the phone with other members of this gang. Folks, if this isn't a reason why we need our Second Amendment, notice the theme here of this program. That's it. This is happening all across America. In fact, shoot, I thought I had a clip. I'm going to play a little more from President Trump. I've got a news clip I wanted to play for you here.
The trafficking is at a level now that it's never been before. I had it down to the lowest level it's been in 32 years because we had such a strong border. They couldn't get through. But now it's the worst it's been in 32 years plus. And then she lost, and this is probably the worst statistic of them all, 325,000 children. Think of that. 3.5 years. She lost 325,000 children. And they're either dead, being sold into sex slavery, or just plain missing.
325,000 children. Let that number sit in. Now, what if those were American children? What if the news story was that 10,000 children went missing from the city of Dallas, 25,000 children missing from the city of New York, 20,000 children missing from the city of LA, and you start adding them up, and all across the country it adds 325. Do you imagine what a story that would be. This is what sci-fi movies are made of. Did aliens come down and steal the children? 325,000 children. That is 3 Cowboy stadiums filled with kids. 3 of them that have gone missing.
Think of the number, 325,000. If that were a Republican instead of her, and she was the border czar, she says, well, I wasn't the border czar, she was. And tomorrow she'll make a case that, oh, she did a fairly good job. You can't say much. You can't justify it. She should save her airfare. She should go back to the White House and tell the president to close the border. He can do it with the signing of just a signature on a piece of paper to the Border Patrol.
Do you remember when President Trump left office? It was one of the worst days for America. But he said, all Biden has to do is go to the beach. Well, he didn't know he'd go to the beach as often as he did. The problem is what Joe Biden did is before he went to the beach, he overturned all of these policies. Him and Kamala Harris sat down. Remember, Kamala was the last one in the room all the time. Kamala was right there with Joe Biden for all of this. Just go to the beach. I wish you would have just gone to the beach and not overturned all these policies first.
Instead, she's going there to try and convince people that she wasn't as bad as everybody knows she was. She was the worst in history. Grossly incompetent, weak, and ineffective. And all you have to do is ask Brandon Judd, Border Patrol. You could ask any of them. Tom Homan. We had the best people that we've ever had, and they said Trump was the best president on the border ever. She ripped up every single reform that we put in place to stop asylum fraud. She ended a travel ban that was unbelievably successful. We had the strongest travel ban anywhere in the world, and it was upheld by the United States Supreme Court. She canceled Title 42. That was a medical title. She canceled it, very hard to get. And altogether, she took 93 executive orders that I put on, all which made the border the best border we've ever had in recorded history. And she terminated them along with Joe Biden. The worst administration in the history of our country. And on the border, it's not even close.
He's right. How is this race even close? I told you I don't think it is. But even with fraudster pollsters, how is this even close right now? Because when you look at just the facts of all of this, you can't say that they've done a good job. You can't say that Kamala Harris is some brilliant woman that's going to make everything better. She was the part of the problem. She was the cause of all of it. Yet everyday people don't see this. You know, I'm walking down the street and I see Harris wall signs in the yard. And I said, what are you so excited about? This is what I ask myself. I saw one house that had a giant Harris banner over the front door. What makes you so excited? And I promise you this, folks. I promise you this. The only thing they have is it's not Donald Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome. For whatever reason, they despise this man. They've bought into the nonsense about him. Yes, he can be a little gruff. Yes, he can be a little direct. That's what I love about the guy. I get somebody might not like that. But do they not see what's best for the nation? I don't think they do. Because they're blind liberal zombies who are drunk on liberalism. They're dead on liberalism. They're corpses who can't think for themselves. This goes for even family members of mine. I really, it's sad for me to see. I don't know about you, if you guys have family members that think like a liberal. You want to shake them and wake them up. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. And then you lose faith. You're like, how could you be so dumb? And this is sad because these are people I normally have great respect for, except when it comes to politics. I look at them like I'm looking at an alien. And this is why families are driven apart because of this stuff. It really is. Oh, all right. I want to talk about Mayor Adams and what's really going on there with him. Before I do that, though, folks, I've been telling you about this buyers group called Consumer Advocates USA. CAUSAnow.com/Grant. This is about, I told you, where you spend your money says a lot about where you want the country to go. But I'm going to tell you right now, you have an opportunity to buy household products, just about everything you need for your house. You can buy it from a company that makes them all, that is family owned, that is here in America with American-made products, American-made ingredients, and they pride themselves on being non-toxic, okay? Unlike China, which prides themselves on being very toxic. So if you want to push back against Amazon, you want to push back against Target and Walmart, these big box stores that have been putting the mom and pops out of business, you go to CAUSAnow.com and you be part of the solution. This is a group of patriots who are buying from a patriotic company that believe in America. And I'm telling you right now, I am a buyer. Most of the products, if not, well, almost all, I've made the switch. My whole house has switched over to this. The products are from this company, and I'm so happy with them. From shampoo and soap to dishwashing detergent to laundry detergent to floor cleaners, glass cleaners, you name it, they got it. CAUSAnow.com. And oh, yeah, the beef products that they have as well. No hormones, pasture-raised beef, fabulous. Perfecto, as President Trump would say. CAUSAnow.com/Grant. Go there, sign up. Someone will get right back with you, tell you how it all works. And I mean it. You're not going to be disappointed. I've been with them, and I've been with them for over a year now, and super, super happy. All right. Eric Adams. They filed charges against him. This is the mayor of New York. What is behind it? The charges behind Mayor Adams, I believe that two truths may be possible. He may not be a choir boy, but as I read this indictment, it's pretty thin. I can't imagine any other Democrat that is drinking the Kool-Aid to get charged. The problem was Eric Adams wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid when it comes to immigration. This was a guy, by the way, when he was borough president, he said he's was it Brooklyn? I think. I'm the Biden of Brooklyn, he called himself. He said, we're going to be a sanctuary city. Send us your immigrants. Well, then we start sending them the illegal aliens. They overtake the city. He says, we can't handle it anymore. Now he says there's a big problem. Now he says, shut down the border. Lo and behold, here comes the DOJ, baby. Don't cross the Bidens or left-wing thinking.
Mayor Adams engaged in a long-running conspiracy in which he solicited and knowingly accepted illegal campaign contributions from foreign donors and corporations. As we allege, Mayor Adams took these contributions even though he knew they were illegal, and even though he knew these contributions were attempts by a Turkish government official and Turkish businessmen to buy influence with him. We also allege that the mayor sought and accepted well over $100,000 in luxury travel benefits.
All right, so I look at the indictment here and I say, what do they talk about? Because it sounds really bad. Well, here's how their case is laid out as I read it. Eric Adams was being courted by Turkish officials. Turkish officials saw Eric Adams as a rising star in the Democrat Party. They said, let's shower him with gifts. We get some influence from him. He's the mayor of one of the most important cities in the world, if not the most important city in the world when it comes to industry and trade, that being New York City. I'll admit that. It's become a hellhole. I don't like to say curse words because Facebook hits me on that, but it's become a hellhole. But still. So they upgrade his plane flights to business class. When he goes to Turkey, they put him up in some lavish suites. I don't know. Big deal. They take office space, the Turkish delegation does, in New York City in a new high-rise office building. The fire department says, now there's some fire hazard issues. We can't give you the certificate of occupancy yet. The Turkish officials say, we've had Eric Adams coming back and forth. We've got him plane tickets, all these things. Maybe we call in a favor. Hey, Adams, can you call off the dogs over at the fire department? Well, what does he do? He calls over to the fire department and says, hey, let him move in. They're afraid, so they let him move in. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, right or wrong, this happens in every city in America. If you have influence with high-ranking leaders, they can make a phone call to city services and hopefully move stuff through. Is that a bribe? I don't know if that's a bribe. I think that's just having friends in high places. If I know a city council member and I know them really well and I've done a campaign event and my girlfriend needs her curb fixed because it's all breaking down, she can't get the street department to come out and fix it, and I call the council member and say, hey, they need the street fixed, and he gets it done. Is that did I exercise influence, a bribe, because I donated the campaign, or do I just have friends in high places? I think it's friends in high places, and I think, sadly, it is how America operates, sadly or unsadly. It's literally how America operates. So the one issue that they have is this idea of straw men for donations. So the Turks want to donate to his campaign. They do it through American citizens, I guess, using straw men. Then what happens is those funds are matched by, I believe, the city of New York, because they've got a matching funds program for campaigns. And now you've defrauded taxpayers. I have an issue there. But again, I'm going to tell you, this wouldn't happen if this was any other Democrat who was drinking the Kool-Aid on the open border policies. So Eric Adams responded like this yesterday.
Is there any circumstance by which you would resign?
No. Listen, I'm here. I was elected by the people of this city, over 700,000 strong. Absolutely. And this is a city that is extremely resilient. And when you say who's the point person that's going to deal with business communities, who's going to deal with the business of running the city, the point person is Eric Adams. I'm the mayor of the city of New York.
All right, well, maybe not for long. I was talking to Joe Piscopo. Remember him? Great guy, Jersey Joe. He was on Saturday Night Live. Such a great actor, comedian, singer, too. Does radio in New York. He was saying it doesn't look good for Eric Adams. He may be forced out sooner than we may think. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calling for Adams to be pushed out. Didn't she go to the Met Gala, a $35,000 ticket bought for her in a dress that was more than that? Her dress and ticket was worth at least half of what Eric Adams is accused of taking. No one went after AOC, but she's a radical leftist drinking the Kool-Aid. Why would they? This DOJ is a weaponized organization, as Eric Adams has now found out, just like President Trump found out, and so many of our J6ers have found out. So why did they come after him? Maybe because of this.
We're seeing the erosion of the quality of life that we've improved on in such a short period of time of this administration.
How many of you organized to stop what they're doing to us? And they're destroying New York City.
DC has abandoned us, and they need to be paying their costs. You join us and tell our national government this is not what happened in New York.
So, those are harsh criticisms from a Democrat in a Democrat totally blue city of New York towards Joe Biden, the Democrat elite establishment that's opened up our borders, flooded his city with illegals. And so here comes the DOJ. Guess who predicted this?
I will say this. I watched about a year ago when he talked about how the illegal migrants are hurting our city and the federal government should pay us and we shouldn't have to take them. And I said, you know what? He'll be indicted within a year. And I was exactly right.
He was. President Trump has always been prophetic, though. He's called it all. He said if Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are elected, you know what'll happen? Country will be destroyed. We'll see inflation go through the roof. Now, it didn't take a guy like President Trump or former president, soon to be next president, to come up with these conclusions. We all knew that this was going to happen. It had become very, very clear. But here's where I think the Democrats have orchestrated this attack against Eric Adams, because everything seems contrived to me, including the protesters. You know, they're known for hiring people to show up. Eric Adams, a black mayor in New York, black community usually will support their own. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Not this time. This seems odd to me. Listen closely.
This is not a black thing. This is a you thing. This is a you thing, Eric Adams. This is not a black thing. Your policies are anti-black. You are a disgrace to all black people in this city.
So literally, they're criticizing him as the worst black man ever, giving a bad name to black people and all this stuff. I don't buy it. I believe they're paid protesters, bought and paid for by none other than the Democrat establishment. To me, it's pretty clear that is the case. Don't you think? I do. Hey, folks, let me tell you something. My friends over at the Wellness Company can help you get prepared. You know, we got this hurricane coming into Florida. What happens when the power goes out and you need prescription medications and the drugstores are closed? What happens when you can't get to the drugstore because the roads are flooded and your kid now you believe has strep throat and you need amoxicillin? I've used the amoxicillin in here to cure my strep throat, by the way. I've also used the ivermectin in here to cure my COVID. Ivermectin in here, a lot of places in the country still hard to get. twc.health/grant. They can get you what you need. These emergency medical kits has 8 of the most common antivirals, antiparasitics, antibiotics that you will need. It's got a handy guidebook in here to guide you in the safe use of all of these medications. This comes in really, really handy. Urinary tract infection, ladies, sorry to say. If you need it, it'll be in here. Speed of delivery is the way that you save lives. Speed of delivery. So I urge you to check out the Wellness Company. Also, folks, I want to just give an update on the attempted assassination of President Trump. There was a hearing yesterday in Washington. I covered it on the Real America's Voice show, and I figured what I would do is play you that segment to get the best update possible on the assassination. Still eye-popping. And this includes an interview with Gary Byrne. He wrote Secrets of the Secret Service. He was a Secret Service officer, a uniformed officer himself. Take a listen and enjoy. All right, folks, I want to turn our attention now. You know, I'm not going to give up on trying to figure out exactly how this first assassin, and the second assassin, for that matter, got so close to President Trump to take a shot at him and take off nearly his head and almost his entire ear. Well, there was a hearing in Washington today on all of this, and to me it was fascinating to listen to. This is the Butler Emergency Services Unit Sergeant Edward Lenz talking about interactions between him and the USS Secret Service sniper team.
We didn't receive any direction from the Secret Service as far as how they wanted our sniper teams to deploy or what their actual mission would be.
What was your mission as you understood it that day?
As we understood it, it was to deploy sniper teams to overwatch the stage, the crowd, the venue area where most of the people would be gathering.
How do you not have communication with the Secret Service sniper team if you're tasked with the same thing? And this was a common theme today of a lack of total communication. Why would they have no communication? Maybe because of this.
I do not believe they could hear us at all. They did not have a radio from us, and we did not have a radio from them. So, you know, in the local command post, there was no way for us to hear any of the Secret Service radio traffic.
So you can't hear Secret Service radio traffic. There's no command post where both the Secret Service and local law enforcement is. This is absolutely nuts. We know from the report that was dropped yesterday from the United States Senate that there were long-standing problems with the radio traffic. Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, says he's worried that the entire communication system is compromised. I would believe it. This is them talking about no unified command post, which boggles my mind with everything that I know about security of an event. And remember, I worked at the NRA. I worked through NRA School Shield. We talked a lot about personal protection. Now, by no means do I claim to be an expert, but I'm an expert enough to know that you better have a unified command post.
One of the things I'm struggling with is this idea that there wasn't a single unified command station on site.
I am very surprised. Normally there will be an overall command post for the entire visit. Very unusual that the way it turned out here at this site.
So we know that the Secret Service is not on the same channel as local law enforcement. That makes sense. In fact, not even every Secret Service team is on the same channel, because the direct protection detail can't be hearing all the traffic. So you've got to have a unified command post that as information comes in, you spread it out to the people that need to hear it from the command. How is this not happening? I am baffled by this. Unless it's on purpose, I don't know. I really don't. Joining me now, former Secret Service officer Gary Byrne is with us. He wrote the book, Secrets of the Secret Service. Gary, it's great to have you back on the program.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
Well, are you asking the same questions I'm asking after this hearing?
Yeah, sort of. I kind of know the answer already. Again, it goes back to some of the things you and I have talked about before. They're so overmanned, or so overworked and undermanned, and whoever was in charge of this particular site completely screwed it up. I'm sorry. The idea that there was no command post and that they didn't have communications with everybody. It sounds like, based on what we heard from the Butler, Pennsylvania emergency response, that some of the assets that they had there, the Secret Service wasn't even aware of because they didn't have a joint meeting. There's no excuse for it. It's complete bedlam, and it's one of the reasons that led to President Trump almost getting murdered in public and a man dying, and two people are life's changed forever. And when you put these things together, these communication issues, which are nothing new, they've had this problem before. The problem is that they always just, because they're under such of a workload, they just jump to the next problem, next event, next thing. And we already know that the Secret Service was withholding assets for them because the counter sniper guys were only assigned the night before. So there's no good that's going to come out of this.
So it's amazing, out of the report, you mentioned the counter sniper teams, out of the report yesterday, a couple things just to remind everybody at home. The drone operator only had an hour of training and was on a 1-800 toll-free line trying to get information about the drone. You had the sniper teams there said that they were dispatched ultimately because there was some credible threats against President Trump. But when they testified, they were never told about these credible threats or had no idea about these credible threats. Information is so important in this day and age. And if you can't communicate, you put lives in danger, Gary.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I can give you a little bit of information about this. It goes back 20 years. 20 years ago, the Secret Service took more control of the Uniform Division, and they broke it up. They broke up the Uniform Division, and they put GS 13s and 14s and 15s inside the Uniform Division Command. And they basically turned the chief of the Uniform Division into the Queen of England. He had no authority. Now, some of that has changed, but that is part of this problem. And the Secret Service will never admit it. They have swelled themselves up so much that nobody gets through to the next level. And they need to go back to the days before, when the Uniform Division reported up the chain of command to the chief. The counter sniper guys had nobody in between them and PPD. And these mistakes were made a long time ago. They got warnings about this and they ignored it.
I'm going to play one last clip for you. This is Congressman Kelly asking, I would think, is the $1 million question. They knew they had this suspicious person. There was all kinds of chatter about it. Why was President Trump even allowed on stage? Listen to this.
Why in the world would you let former President Trump go out onto that platform if you weren't sure it was secure? I don't believe the grounds were safe and secure that day. I'm just trying to understand is what it was or what it would have taken for somebody to say, keep Mr. Trump inside until we clear this up.
Well, it's interesting because I'd love to know the answer to that. I guess it is the $1 million question.
It is. And it comes down to this: lack of communications, and two, I hate to say it, but arrogance. Some of this could be just Secret Service arrogance. We're not going to, we're getting ready to go out on stage. everything is going fine. They're not getting the information that they're supposed to be getting, or they're ignoring it. And because the process is moving forward, they let it move forward. I've seen it happen before, never a catastrophe like this, but because that's the way we've always done it, they kept moving forward. I have to believe that if the lead agent knew of these threats that were going on, I mean, by this time, people are running around. You can hear it on other people's videos. They're screaming, he's on the roof. I don't know why he chose to go, the agent chose to move him out. I'm siding on he didn't hear the communications.
Yeah. Let me ask you one final question. I asked it of C.J. Jorath, who was a Secret Service agent. Last night on this program, I asked him, following Dan Bongino raising the issue that quite possibly the Secret Service, somebody inside the agency, could either knowingly or unknowingly be compromised. Do you think there's any way the Secret Service could be compromised?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I'm not sure if that's what we're dealing with. And I'll go back. I've said this to you before. It's hard for people to understand that their incompetence is this bad, because 90% of what most people know is from TVs and movies. It's possible it's just incompetence, and that there's so many layers of management. But is it possible that there's somebody in there who is withholding, the person that's withholding assets for the Trump security detail is purposely doing that? Why they're doing it, we don't know.
Well, I think we may know, and it's really a shame to think of the possible reasons of why they may be doing it.
Agreed.
Gary Byrne, I appreciate your service to this country, and I certainly appreciate you coming on tonight, as always. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Thank you, sir. Anytime.
It's great to have him on, and it's interesting to go over all of this stuff because something needs to be figured out. I've said it again. Chad Prather, he's a great comedian. He was at the Blaze. Said we know more about Morgan Wallen throwing a chair off a roof than we do about the assassination attempts against President Trump. Something's wrong with that picture. That's going to do it for us today, folks. On the Real America's Voice show tonight, we're going to cover Kamala Harris's trip to the border. I can't wait to see this. We'll have all kinds of live coverage from down there. We're going to hold her accountable on that show tonight. So I urge you to tune in there, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And I promise you're not going to regret that one. We got a good show planned for you on Real America's Voice. I appreciate all of you. Don't forget my website, GrantStinchfield.com, GrantStinchfield.com. If you are watching on any of the social media platforms, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share the video. It's how we up the message. The algorithm really feeds off of likes. So it's a great pleasure and honor for you to do that for me, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. With that, that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate all of you. Have yourself a great weekend. If I don't see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight, Stinchfield's Army rolls. See you then.